As 2020 draws to a close, a year that feels like its own kind of crime scene, I keep thinking about a horror movie from 1968. Not a movie about monsters or zombies or a killer pandemic, but a movie about the disturbing influence of ridiculous old white rich people. If you know anything about Rosemary's Baby, you probably know it's about a woman whose husband conspires to drug her and let her be impregnated with the child of Satan, all because it will help his acting career.
So that's where the money is, isn't it? The commercials. And the artistic thrills, too. Yeah.
The filmmaker and producer Jen Handorf talked about all this on the amazing podcast, The Evolution of Horror, specifically pointing out why this movie is one of the great cinematic treatments of psychological abuse.
One of the reasons I love it is that it often plays with one of the themes that I find most terrifying, which is gaslighting. Predominantly, we see that around female characters and as a trope, but it's a terrifying thing to me, the idea that you think everyone's out to get you and no one believes you and they convince you that you're wrong, and then it turns out like it's a paranoid's worst nightmare.
I look awful.
What are you talking about? You look great. It's that haircut that looks awful.
In Rosemary's case, the gaslighting comes from all the ways her fears and concerns are downplayed or dismissed.
Has an undertaste. A chalky undertaste.
I don't get it.
That's silly, honey. There is no undertaste.
She doesn't know what happened the night she got pregnant.
I dreamed someone was raping me. I said, no, someone inhuman.
Thanks a lot.
She doesn't know why her husband won't look at her.
Don't you think we ought to talk about it?
About what?
The way you haven't been looking at me.
What are you talking about? I've been looking at you.
You haven't.
Why, sure I have.
She doesn't know the nature of the persistent twisting pain in her uterus. And her doctor scolds her for even asking about the cause of that pain.
I was afraid it might be an ectopic pregnancy.
Ectopic? I thought you weren't going to read books, Rosemary.
It was staring at me in the drugstore.
And all it did was worry you. Will you go home and throw it away, please?
I will, I
Pains will be
promise.
gone in 2 days. Ectopic pregnancy.
All of this resonates with me because it feels like we've been living through 4 years of similar psychological abuse. Possibly the greatest period of collective gaslighting in our lifetimes.
This is no dream. This is really happening.
And like Rosemary, there were so many times when we thought we could rely on trusted institutions to save us.
I was afraid you wouldn't believe me.
I don't believe in witchcraft, but there are plenty of maniacs and crazy people in this city.
Only to be crushed when those institutions failed. Which brings me back to those old white rich people, the people largely responsible for building those institutions. When I was in grad school, I happened to see Rosemary's Baby at a revival theater with a packed audience.
Oh, dear.
And I was shocked by how the first half of the movie came across as a comedy.
Do you come from Australia?
Oh, no. I'm from right here in New York City. I've been there, though. I've been everywhere, literally. You name a place, and I've been there. Go ahead, name a place.
Fairbanks, Alaska.
I've been there.
From the moment the villains first appeared on the screen, the audience couldn't stop laughing at them.
Where's your hubby, do?
And I wasn't sure if we were supposed to be laughing.
I knew it. I said it to Roman yesterday. He's so good looking. What movies was he in?
Was this just a movie that hadn't aged well? That had turned into camp?
Hi, dear. We're not bothering you, are we? That's my dear friend Laura, who isn't a good...
But on repeated viewings, I'm positive that all of this is intentional.
Hello, Rosemary. Welcome to the Bram.
Just look at the way they're dressed, the way they eat their food. In fact, the ridiculousness of these people is a big part of the gaslighting. It's how they hide in plain sight. They seem too ridiculous to be monstrous, and that's how they're able to commit monstrous crimes. Certainly not the first monsters to hide behind that disguise.
Nothing to be afraid of, Rosemary. Honest and truly, there isn't.
There's nothing but a mild sedative to calm you down.
I thought of this recently, listening to the podcast You're Wrong About.
Oh.
An episode where co-host Michael Hobbs was describing how older Americans are more susceptible to conspiracy theories spread by Fox News and Facebook. And at one point, he stopped and reminded listeners why this matters.
Most, institutions, most political power is held by people over 65, and people over 65 vote their asses off.
They really do.
I don't want to be shitty about it. Like, everyone should be voting, but just we live in a country that is dominated by the preferences of older people, and old white people being in charge of the country is not a situation that is going to end anytime soon.
That's what's so chilling. It doesn't matter if these people are ridiculous, because they have the power. There's a repeated device in Rosemary's Baby where the camera struggles to see around corners. And I get the sense that these ridiculous people hide their power in those corners. When Guy and Rosemary go to their first dinner with the Castevettes, they're dreading an evening with these square old people.
Oh, Jesus, we don't have to do that, do we, honey?
Then Rosemary gets trapped in the kitchen doing the dishes, and she struggles to see around a corner. All that's visible is a cloud of smoke from the room where her husband is beginning the process of signing over the very rights to her body.
No, it's very interesting, Mrs.
You see?
Minnie. I'm Minnie, he's Roman, okay? Okay.
What's possibly even more disturbing is that the director, Roman Polanski, would himself later be charged with drugging and raping a 13-year-old girl. He tried to take a plea bargain and then fled the country, making it problematic at best to admire his work. But Rosemary's Baby doesn't belong to Roman Polanski.
Everything's gonna be okay now, Andy or Jenny.
It also belongs to the author of the novel, Ira Levin, whose book is almost identical to the screenplay. And it belongs to the incredible actors. Some people think it gets too silly and campy at the end, but I think it's all of a piece. Ridiculousness hides monstrousness, but even after monstrous acts are committed, the criminals can still be ridiculous.
Hail Satan!
Hail Satan!
It's just that laughing at the ridiculous monsters doesn't actually stop them from being monstrous. Only confronting them can do that.
What the hell are you doing?
Planning the menu.
For me, one of the most heroic moments in the movie is when Rosemary decides to throw a party with her old, younger friends. It's as if she's inviting reality back into her life, to challenge the delusion that's been foisted on her. It feels less like a social occasion and more like a political act. And after her friends confirm her sense of what's going on,
Rosemary, pain like that is a warning that something isn't right. Go see Dr. Hill.
she finally has the courage to really challenge her husband on the version of reality he's been trying to sell her.
I'm not changing. I just want to go to Dr. Hill and get a second opinion.
I won't let you do it, Rome. I mean, because it's not fair to Saperstein.
Not fair to... What are you talking about? What about what's fair to me?
Look, if you want a second opinion, you tell Saperstein and let him decide.
No, I want Dr. Hill.
At least
if
have
you
that much
won't
courtesy
pay,
to tell
then
man as
I'll...
you feel. Ro?
But the end of that scene is a chilling reminder of just how hard it is to push back when you've been subjected to this kind of abuse.
What?
Pain, stop. It's like that.
Stop.
Stop.
And how easy it is,
What was in that drink you made?
in your personal life or our political life, to give up the fight
Eggs, milk, sugar.
the very moment you get some small piece of what you want.
What else? Oh, Rosemary, for Christ's sakes, what else was in that drink?
It's alive. God, it's moving. It's alive. It's all right. Feel.
Oh, yeah, felt it.
Don't be scared. I won't bite you.
Oh, it's wonderful. It's really...
I feel it kicking. It's alive.